Justice League Dark number 7, written by Peter Milligan, art by Admira Wajia and Daniel Sampier. Left off last issue with Madame Xanadu seeing a glimpse of Andrew Bennett dying from eye vampire and Cain, the evil vampire of biblical lore, coming back to life. And this is part 1 of the Rise of the Vampires crossover series. So, this issue picks up with Xanadu basically telling the team, yep, Andrew Bennett is dead and something's awoken. And Constantine says, you know, I met Andrew Bennett once. He was kind of a dick, so I'm kind of glad he's dead. I'm out. Goodbye. Not going to deal with vampires. Xanadu has Zatanna stop him and keep him in place, and he's like, fine, all right, but let it be noted, vampires suck. So they teleport via Shade's M-Vest into Gotham, and as they arrive, the city is just on fire. It is a hell zone. And when they arrive, they take a look around, and they see through all the flames a significant amount of bats, because, you know, that's just Gotham. But they also see vampires standing within them. And everyone kind of takes it in stride, but Shade is losing it a little bit. He's like, oh my god, vampires are real. What? Huh? So as he's just trying to come to grips with it, they realize they didn't exactly teleport into the safest location, so he teleports them up more safely on top of a rooftop as he just tries to mentally get his shit together. The rest of the team is looking down on the ground and see a car being trapped. A couple is arguing about taking this route as a vampire busts through the window and grabs the wife. And as it does so, Batgirl comes in and starts trying to beat up the vampires, but she is very quickly overwhelmed. And as one goes to bite her, a dead man jumps into its body and immediately starts yelping in pain. Neither Batgirl nor the surrounding vampires have any idea what happened, but as dead man pops out of the vampire's body, he's like, oh my god, it's so freaking cold in there. And he drops the vampire onto like a metal pointed fence, and Constantine just casually pulls out an axe and chops its head off, and it's just like, you know, there's probably a lot of ways to kill these vampires, but this is by far the most fun. So Batgirl and Constantine just go through taking out the vampires. Constantine's actually killing them, whereas Batgirl's just doing some kicks and stuff. And Batgirl's like, oh, you're Zatanna's team. Batman warned me about you guys. And he's like, oh, cool. Glad we're Zatanna's team. Meanwhile, we cut over to Shade, and he is still, like, he's losing control over his M-Vest because he just is kind of not there right now. Meanwhile, they look out over this horde, and Xanadu tells Zatanna, hey, could you, like, stop them from coming after us? So she uses her magic, but it isn't quite working. It's, like, falling a little flat, and one of the vampires almost gets through, but Constantine throws the axe and chops off its head. And Xanadu's like, huh, your magic is failing. That's weird. And Batgirl just comes up to him and tells him, you know, I'm needed on the other side of town. You guys don't seem like you're firing on all cylinders right now, so maybe you should leave before things get too hectic. So Constantine draws up a protection circle in the middle of the street, and basically is just like, you're forcing me to be here. I'm going to stand in the middle of this thing until all this is over. And as he goes to stand in it, the circle disappears. And he blames Xanadu briefly, but she's like, no, that ain't me. This is my vision. This is how things end. So we see a few blocks away, Cain is giving a talk to his vampire army, how the world is theirs to claim, and he's becoming stronger every second. Rooftop above, we see, I believe it's John or Will, whatever, the people from iVampire, along with Batman, fighting off the horde and explaining basically the events of iVampire number 6, of how Tig, the little kid, chopped off Andrew Bennett's head thinking that it would kill all of the vampires that he created, which would have been the big bad of that series. So we cut back over to the main team, the Justice League Dark, and Xanadu's like, okay, here's the deal. I believe that Cain is draining the magical energy from around us, and therefore we're going to be losing our powers very quickly. So I need to go get some help. Boston and Constantine, you guys need to go to the land of the dead and get Andrew Bennett back. I'm going to go do my own thing. Bye. And she just spirit projects herself out of there, leaving her body behind. So Boston and Constantine are like, okay, all right, here's the thing. I'm not going to do that, or at least Constantine isn't, because Andrew Bennett sucks, and he's kind of glad he's dead. Meanwhile, Boston like goads him on, be like, you know what? I bet you don't even have the ability to get over to the land of the dead with your magic powers gone. And he's like, oh, is that so? All right, I'll show you. Shade finally gets a grip on himself long enough to teleport Xanadu, Zatanna, and himself out of there. and they teleport up to the rooftop where Batman, I'm going to say William, and Tig are. And basically, they're just reinforcements trying to help in the fight. So Constantine pulls out a bottle of whiskey and a dead rat, and he somehow turns that into a portal to the realm of the dead. And while both of them are very hesitant to step through the portal, they do end up doing so because it's necessary to save the world. So they go through, and we'll see what happens next time. However, we see where Madame Xanadu went, which was the astral zone of the Crystal One. And the Crystal One is, as far as I can tell, a big blue bearded baby made of crystal. And Xanadu's like, here's the deal. I made the Dark Team, and I tried to avoid a day like this. I really tried, but I need help from something higher. So can you please help me? And the Crystal One's like, are you sure about this? Like, you know your team's going to hate you for doing this. And she's like, yeah, I know. And that's where the issue ends. This issue is mostly just setting up the pieces. It's getting everything where it needs to be. It has them going to the dead zone. It has Zatanna and Shade on the side of the iVampire team. It has Xanadu doing her own thing. It's just getting everything where it needs to be. So it's not exactly the most impactful issue, but I'm definitely loving the kind of tone they got here. I do wish that this followed more of the iVampire art, which is Andrea Sorrentino. It's fantastic art and really fits the mood. This is fine. It also is two artists. They blend together pretty well. I couldn't really tell where the gap was if you just showed me the pages, but it's not quite the Mikel Janin art of the first arc, and it's not the Andrea Sorrentino, so I gotta knock it off a little bit for that. But overall, I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a 7.5. I think it's a very good start to the event as a whole, and I am, of course, looking forward to part 2, which luckily came out the same week in iVampire number 7, so look forward to that. And I'm just down with the event. It's a solid start to a very solid story.